you need the guest and host both to create a party, right? And it's doing business, and that's what at Toyota they also said. There's a great story about that as well, though. But it's their relationship with the customer starts after the customer buys the car, right? So they're already anticipating, they're creating the car, and then the person buys it, and that's where the moment really starts to take shape.
Welcome to Chain of Learning, where the links of leadership and learning unite. This is your connection for actionable strategies and practices to empower you to build a people-centered learning culture, get results, and expand your impact so that you and your team can leave a lasting legacy. I'm your host and fellow learning enthusiast, Katie Anderson. We're jumping back into our masterclass on Japanese culture and leadership and diving into leadership practices that you can apply in your organization. In the previous episode of Chain of Learning, Tim Wolput, Japanologist and Toyota Way management expert, and my partner in leading my Japan leadership experiences, and I explored how Japan's samurai and rice farming culture influenced Japanese leadership practices, as well as the differences between Japanese and Western leadership culture. If you haven't listened in yet, hit pause now and go back to episode 42. In this episode, part 2 of our conversation, Tim and I discuss concepts from Japanese culture that sometimes in the West are equated with tools or a preconceived idea of a format or template the idea has to take, such as kata and obeya. And we get back to the original intention of these practices, go back to the principles. You'll hear about the origin of the Japanese tea ceremony, the concept of omotenashi, and the power of transcending transactional thinking to create long-term success. Tim and I pick up our conversation about learning by doing and walking the path towards perfection with an exploration of how his experience becoming the World Aikido Champion in 2005 has influenced his understanding of leadership. Let's dive back in.
So Aikido is you notice it ends on a do, right? Aikido. And do is the symbol. It means the concept of a road or a path to perfection. So I talked about Bushido, which is the way of the warrior. And it's how you walk this path to unattainable perfection. And it's not about reaching the end goal. It's about walking the path. And the thing is with journeys, I like arriving at the destination. But, being on holiday, it's like at the end of the holiday or at the end, and then it's finished and it's gone. And then you look back, you have great memories, but it's the whole experience. It's the being in the moment, and moments repeat. Of course, each moment is different, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's really enjoyable. But that's the essence of what life and what it means to be to be human. So it's the journey, it's the walking, it's the experiencing. That is when you reach the goal, is just there. And the same thing with becoming world champion. I'm really happy. It's just one moment there, and now it's 20 years ago. But the whole thing and the bonds you create with the people, and that was such a meaningful thing. Also, you learn a lot because it's hard. You have to practice hard. You're tired. You fail, and the whole thing. It's basically it's like life on a smaller scale. And so my takeaways, what I really cherished was, I'm there. I'm during the finals or in the world championship, and you're competing. It's just you, and you have your opponent, right? But to be able to do what you do well, it's not just me or how great I am. I had my teammates, my instructors, coaches, my family who's doing all sorts of things, supporting me. And so I really felt like, even though it's an individual disciplines, I'm there, I'm representing everyone and everything that, was behind me and kind of raised me up to the level that I was, being able to do a good job. And so the importance of team and people and providing that support and lifting you to higher heights was something that so I didn't understand it at the time though. But that's something, a learning that I took. And another interesting thing was that, to be a champion, to be a world champion, even though you win the tournament, it takes a while to actually become a true champion in the human side of things. Of course, because you're proud and all the things. And then you start discovering what it means to be there as a champion, because people are looking at you, they're expecting stuff. You're in constant struggles with yourself, like, oh, what if I fail again? And all these, you learn all this becomes really hard, and you have all these doubts and all these things, and so at some point I started, complaining a little bit about these things, and I'm tired and all the things. And so one of my good friends, Mr. Konaka, and he said to me, Tim, you shouldn't complain. You should, because a champion doesn't complain, and a champion doesn't get tired, and a champion just does the right thing. And I thought that was at that moment I realized, it's not about, winning the title. It's and becoming a true champion. It's about embracing and breathing and showing what it means to be, a good human being, skilled like a samurai, right? And so it's very hard, and you can do it. Maybe I can't do it most of the time, but that's not the point. It gives this aim, this bigger thing that you're aiming for, and it's to be an example, to kind of inspire people, and especially now after getting older, to help with the things that I've learned, to help other people aim for excellence, or whatever it is that they are aiming for themselves. And that's kind of the learnings I had from and I'm still having though. But anyway, it's embracing the struggles and all the things, and all that comes with it, together with all the people that are there. And so one interesting thing to put it back to in a management kind of perspective. So we have, in an organization, we often have the pyramid, right? And you have top management, middle management, and the gemba, so the place where value is created. And so usually, and we talk about supportive leadership and all the things, and then people like to flip the pyramid like this, right? And so in Japan, they rarely think about that in that way, because if you flip the pyramid and you have the pyramid kind of balance on one point, it easily topples, right? So yeah, it goes so. And so rather than Akio Toyoda, he explained it wonderfully, I think. So he said the reason why he's at the top is not because he's great, because he's supported by the gemba and all the people in the organization that make it so that he is able to stand there at the top. And so I think supportive leadership, it has great points, but it's also, as a leader, the gratitude, and which is, it follows from my experience as, becoming world champion. It's the gratitude and the understanding that you're there not because you are so good in yourself. It's because you are supported by all these people. And it's you should take good care of the people that are supporting you. And so it's a completely different idea to turn the pyramid upside down, because then it becomes really, really heavy, and it falls over very easily. And so it doesn't mean anything about it just means you're at the bottom and you're doing all the work yourself, rather than it doesn't lead to the gratitude and so this good relationship building with the people that are helping you be in that position.
I hadn't heard that before from Akio Toyoda, but it makes a lot of sense. And I've long talked about how Toyota actually didn't, it's not necessarily servant leadership, which is how that pyramid with the point on the bottom is often described, but rather something they did is really leverage the hierarchy that's so strong in Japanese culture, but they shifted the leader's role from being this command and control type of leader, just telling people what to do, to this one that's like really creating the conditions for people to do their best, contribute their ideas, contribute to Kaizen, be aligned. And so they are at the top through that hierarchy, but it's not the command and control top that we're really used to from the West. And so I really appreciate that description and the parallels you've made from your experience about martial arts and being a champion to also the path of becoming a leader. And it's hard, and there are challenges, and it can feel lonely as well. So on this sort of concept of martial arts, one of the foundations of, a lot of Japanese culture comes from that martial arts background, a word kata, meaning routines and practices, which has become to be known in the West as equivalent of the Toyota kata that Mike Rother documented, often meaning the routines and practices for improvement. But it actually has its routines and practices in so many ways. And I remember a few years ago when you took me to an Aikido dojo, I had to definitely learn the very, very beginnings of the practice. And by the way, everyone, all the young people who were there were so much looking up to Tim as the former world champion. And he was just so humble and generous with them. It was like a true testament to leadership of these, both to me and to others. But let's go into the topic of kata and the importance of kata in Japanese culture. And also, we can talk about some of the cultural experiences we include in our program so that people can really understand the origins of kata and what it means.
So in Japan, they say that you have a general or a king, a leader who decides who to fight, and then you have a general who decides how to fight. And so I think it's in organizations, it's as you described, there's a hierarchy, but it's not who is more great. It's understanding the different roles. And so it's the king who is going to decide who to fight, but the king is not going to decide how to fight, because that's obviously he wouldn't be able to talk about that in any meaningful way. And it's the degree to which you are able, to make something out of the organization, out of the team, that is with everyone performing their roles. And I think, is it Aristotle who used to say, the whole should be bigger than the sum of its parts, right? So the Gestalt kind of idea. Anyway, so I thought that's a Japanese way of looking at hierarchy and understanding hierarchy. It's about the roles and not so much about the command and control element in there. And so leadership definitely is a huge part, and it's about helping people in the end to become better. And it's this road, right? And so that goes back to Japanese martial arts, or not just martial arts, all the disciplines which have the do element to the side. And I've talked about Aikido, right? Judo, Kendo, and of course at the background you have the calligraphy, which is called Shodo, and you have the tea ceremony, which is called Sado, and the flower arrangement, which is called Kado, and they all end in Do, right? And it's this road to perfection, as we've talked about. And so how, and we've talked about Shuhari as well, right? So Shu, observe the form, Ha is destroy the form, it literally means, which means that you are going to kind of apply it and change it and learn. And then you have the Ri is moving into whole new directions. And so observing the form, basically it means that as the master is showing you, you are going to do exactly you're going to try it as the master says it. And so and talk about the form. So form actually means kata. So the word kata just means it's the form of how things are going to be done, and it's a very educational tool. So in the disciplines I mentioned, so the master who learned from his or her master. So it's a way to convey knowledge and experience, and not just intellectually, but actually rather before the intellect kicks in, to have people go through the motions and physically experience what needs to be done. So we have this sequence of things that you need to do. And so in Lean, we would say like standard work, for example. So you have the process, it's repeatable, which means that you don't have to intellectually understand it fully. You can just see how it should be done. It's like you don't have to be a Michelin chef in order to prepare a certain type of dish. If you have the recipe and you have exactly how they are making it, of course, you are not going to be able to make it as good the first time you try it, right? And that's a big difference in the West, where we are intellectual learners. We think when we intellectually understand it, we think we are masters. And our educational system is mainly that way. It's like, it's just about understanding it. And there is though, but because in sports and all these things and craftsmanship, we have similar kind of concepts though. But basically, if we put it into big brackets, I say the West is more of an intellectual tradition, and Japan and the East is more of a practical tradition, which means, of course, you are going to have like these standards which can be repeated. You don't have to understand, you just do it. And as you are doing it and you repeat it, you get better. And then you start understand, all right, that's how it works. So it's learning through experience, learning by doing, rather than learning by just cramming knowledge in your head, right? And so in Aikido, it's the same thing. So you start and, the master is saying a bunch of things, and I have no idea what the depth of what he's talking about, right? And then you just do it as is explained, and then suddenly you start understanding, this isn't working exactly. Why am I not able to do it as the master is doing it? And so it doesn't mean you're brainlessly going to do the stuff, right? You're going to do it, you're going to fail, and then you're going to think of, how can I get closer to what is happening here? So, and then at some points so that's the kata. So you can repeat, it's a fixed form, you can repeat it. You don't have to be smart to be able to do it. You just have to do it. And then, the insights and the wisdom follow after the experience. And in the tea ceremony, you remember Kimura Sensei, who is the tea master, right? And so the thing is, so she said she'd been doing it like 40 years. And even now, at the moment, she still doesn't know exactly, for some parts, why she is doing it. And then all of a sudden, it clicks and said, now I understand it. But then, after a while, then a new insight says, maybe I didn't understand it completely as I understand it right now. So it's this path of doing and growing, and that is inherent in the idea of kata, as it follows the idea of shuhari, of course. And so that's I think that's the important thing in Japanese style of learning. And as a leader, I know, of course, you have the Toyota kata. In Japan, nobody calls it Toyota kata, though. But there is this idea of shuhari. And I think the idea of shuhari, in fact, it's just a word, of course, though, but in fact, it is better than the Toyota kata, because I feel like the Toyota kata, if you stick with kata, you miss all the good stuff.
Well, Mike Rother would agree with you, because the Toyota kata is the framework he created to help people learn the coaching questions and how to go through a problem-solving process, was the shu part, where it's like, just do it this way. He encourages people to break it apart now and incorporate their own style. So learn the foundations and then make it your own. And like in shuhari, you don't want to just get stuck in the shu element. You actually need to move on that path and grow and develop and learn.
Exactly.
And something so powerful and beautiful about the tea ceremony, and I love going with Mr. Yoshino too, is just the true omotenashi, that concept of hospitality. But that's a word that doesn't even like come close to conveying what is. But this true warmth in giving to others in this one moment together, the Ichigo Ichie concept of how do we really just appreciate the moment and the human interaction together. And it's just such a beautiful way of understanding these concepts that we talk in a very knowledge-based, cerebral-based way to truly experience and see what that means in practice.
Exactly. And so, I work together with the Toyota Management Institute. And so there's as a collective of people like Mr. Yoshino, who have been working for Toyota 40 years or so. And there's a lot of wisdom there, and I'm picking up so many things working with them together intensively. But Kimura Sensei of the tea ceremony, I think she taught me the most profound thing that is necessary when you're in business or in life. And so she said at one point, so we have to get away from the transactional thinking. And in business, it's so I'm the customer, I pay money and I get something in return, and that's like the 2D kind of element of, even maybe it's a one dimension kind of thing, but two directional anyway. So she said, you get the result, and it's very result focused, but you get nothing more than the result. And she said, if you kind of transcend the transactional and understand that what in fact you are doing is the service provider and service enjoyers or customers, is you're creating a moment together. The one can't exist without the other, and it's with creating this unique, wonderful moment together. That is the essence of Ashi, which they translate most of the time as the art of hospitality. But it's you need the guest and host both to create a party, right? And it's doing business, and that's what at Toyota they also said. There's a great story about that as well, though. But it's their relationship with the customer starts after the customer buys the car, right? So they're already anticipating, they're creating the car, and then the person buys it, and that's where the moment really starts to take shape. And so talking about one piece flow, that's an interesting story I heard, is that Taichi Ono and his assistant, Mr. Suzumura, so they were installing the one piece flow ideas in the factory, and so you have all these cars within the specifications on each of the cars, because many of the cars, as it is one piece flow, for them it started off as efficiency, because that was the only way they could actually manage to pull it off. But then as they saw these cars, this lineup of cars, and one by one they would make it, they would truly feel like one car is one person. And in fact, it's like the person was there on the assembly line, and they could see like, okay, this person wants it to have this and this way. And so for them, one piece flow was not just technical, mechanical thing. It brought the customer in the line, and they said, wow, this is one person who is going to drive with this car. And that's so different from, mass production, where you're going to work, a general idea of a car for the customer in an abstract kind of idea. And so I think that's, the essence of the tea ceremony ties in perfectly with the idea of one piece flow, not because it's a smart and efficient way of doing things, but it's because you are trying to create this moment, or anticipating this moment of taking place by the work that you do. In fact, by working, you are aware that you are having an impact on someone, you're making someone happy through the work that you do. And that's such a difference from, Tayloristic kind of idea, where you have a very smart industrial engineer who is setting up a perfect system, and then having the people do dumb jobs and not think about what they are doing. And we've seen what it creates. And even now, there's so many companies. Like, I mean, this is not the critic, of course, but when I hear things about Amazon and how, in the logistics centers, and we try to, even though there's people working, we are so hard because we are smart and we're building these systems. We're trying to get the humans out of the picture and replace them with machines and things, and we are reducing people to machines, because they're just there to do stupid stuff and not think about all the things, because we think it'll prevent things from going bad. But in the end, we end up like a very static mechanism that doesn't change, and leads to energy drainage and a lot of failures, because things are not going to plan usually. So, and that's the tea ceremony, and talking with Kimura Sensei, who is not a lean specialist or a Toyota production specialist. It kind of put everything into this very, very different perspective.
It was beautiful. And she is a beautiful human being. Just her smile and the true, just in the moment, is so powerful. I've been to the tea ceremony now 3 times with her, and I just love it every time. And I was inspired by, as you were talking, Tim, about this concept of Omotenashi, which I've known for a long time, but what Kimura Sensei was saying. And I believe that's why you and I have this just incredible partnership, as well, is that we both believe in that joy, and all the people who come on the programs. It's this mutual relationship and these bonds that are developed, and it's the one moment in the one meeting, but looking at everything together. And there's so much energy that's created there, and that's what people can do in their companies too. And we really connect on that human level, and not, of course we need to achieve the goals, but really, really looking at how do we have that human connection first.
Exactly.
There's one more topic I want to explore, and we could go on for hours. So everyone, we could, this is just a taste of the deep wisdom and knowledge that Tim brings to the table. But the concept of Obeya is a really hot topic right now. And Obeya, the word meaning, a big room, giant room. And, going back to my comment in the beginning, in the West, we tend to take things in a very tool-based way. And so I see a lot of organizations, trying to create standard, what an Obeya should be, and looking at it from a tool-based side, rather than the deep intention about visibility and visualization and developing people. So you have a great YouTube video, which I'll link to here, because Tim goes into great detail. But let's talk about the concept of Obeya and its real purpose in developing people, and then tying back to that management concept that we started at.
Yeah. And so actually that follows quite naturally from the tea ceremony, of course, because The tea ceremony takes place in this room where, people with different roles come together, the host and the guests, and they all play their part, and they make it one unique moment. And then, of course, they have like the calligraphy there, the flower arrangement, and the whole room. It has these visual stimuli, and so to guide the conversation and the learning that is going to take place, the way of the tea. And so, in fact, Obeya is more or less, it's very similar. You can see the essence right there in the tea ceremony. It's a room, or it's a place. It doesn't even need to be a room with a door. Just a small wink if Brad is listening.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
Brad Toussaint back from a previous episode. So yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's a place people get together, and they have different roles, but they are going to be learning together. They have the visual management on the walls, so it's like the tea ceremony, but in a different setting, in a different shape. So the Obeya, so the people coming together, having good quality communication and good quality decision making, and of course the visual management is there to guide them so that they are able to see the facts in real time. And now, interestingly, so in Japan, people hardly ever talk about Obeya as it is. And so in the West, I see now there's a small boom going on, like everyone wants to have an Obeya, and they talk about, we do Obeya and all these things. But seen from a Japanese point of view, it sounds really silly, because it's what I see in the West people doing there. It's like, like a kitchen table, and they spend all that money on a kitchen table. They spend all that money on the furniture, and they never talk about what they're going to do with the furniture. And so the thing is, an Obeya, it's just like a kitchen table, and it can be really fancy, but it can also be outdoors. You put like these beer crates, and you put something on top of it, and it becomes a table. And it's not about the furniture. It's about the people you gather around. It's about the conversations you have, the great times, what you do. So it's what you do in the Obeya, rather than the furniture in itself. And so my feeling is it's the same thing that if you look in the history, what happened with Lean and to a certain degree, I mean, the people who are doing Agile, they say people focused on all these things, but if you truly see what is happening in many companies, it's the tools, it's the methodology, and there's a lot of effort being put there. And somehow, okay, we have this great furniture, and now what? And then we, it doesn't easily go further than that thing. So Obeya basically is, it's like, it's a conversation, it's a communication, and it's a decision making, and everything that you are going to need, or you are going to add as you go to make it a great party. It's like the tea ceremony, right? It's the essence is getting together. And then you can build, and you can let it evolve based on how you are going to make it a great, how you are going to do great things together. That's the essence of Obeya. And so I like to tie it in with with your previous comments about about this being human, the human side, and the energy and happiness, etc. And I think it ties perfectly with what Toyota, one of the two pillars of the Toyota way, which is respect for people, right? And so it says in Japanese, "Ningen-sei sonsho," which in fact is a respect for humanness, so to speak. But I think, Mr. Yoshino, and I think it's in your book as well, it's to hold precious what it means to be human. And I think that's such a powerful statement. And I think it's if people go away from this podcast and they can forget all about all the stuff that we talked about, but if they just keep in the end, it's about finding out what the essence is of being human, and to hold precious what it means to be human. And that's, if you talk about Obeya, it's not the furniture. It's not, in Lean, the value streams, or like the Kanban board or whatever in Agile or in Scrum, etc. I mean, that you need that. I mean, that's great, but you can kind of build it as you go. But what you cannot do without is the people and the humanness and the connection of the people right there.
Well, that's such a powerful way to be ending this conversation. Tim, it's been A pleasure having you on Chain of Learning. I love partnering with you, our nearly 10 years of friendship, and every conversation I learn something more, and I have a ton of fun together. So thank you for coming on the show, and I can't wait to see you when I'm in Japan.
Same here. I could say a bunch of the same things as you, but then of course it would mean that so I'm kind of not giving you the final word, and then it would seem. So I just let's do as we always do with the say no ine. I think that summons up the great energy and the vibe and the partnership and all the things. So we go say no
Ine!
ine.
There are so many rich insights about leadership in Japanese history and culture that Tim has shared in the past 2 episodes. Ultimately, as Tim emphasized at the end, leadership is about holding precious what it means to be human. It's not about the tools or the process improvements. It's about walking the path, focusing on the process, and doing the right thing. One of the most powerful concepts I've learned in the past decade, first living in Japan and now hosting global leaders on my immersive Japan leadership experience, is the concept of Ichigo Ichie, one moment, one meeting, the power of the now, appreciating the present and the time we have together now. That moment is something that you and I are sharing here together right now as you're listening into the podcast. The meaning of Ichigo Ichie is a sentiment that sums up one of the most important part of my Japan leadership experiences, sharing unique moments with the global leaders who join me and the Japanese leaders who I have become friends with over the last decade. It's not just about leadership learning, about Kaizen and people-centered cultures, but it's about coming together for ourselves as human beings. It's a special moment all together there in Japan. I love all the special moments that happen for each cohort together in Japan, and I would love to host you there as well. There's so much more that both Tim and I could go into, and this is just a taste of the deep learning that we bring to my Japan leadership experience. I invite you and your leaders to join me on an upcoming cohort. If you're an executive, continuous improvement, or lean consultant, or internal change leader who's on a mission to create a high performing organization built on respect for people and continuous learning, please join me. It's not just a trip to Japan, though it certainly includes a life changing immersive experience in Japan. It's the ultimate immersive leadership development experiences for individuals and for teams to revitalize your passion for continuous improvement and deepen your knowledge by learning from doing what it really takes to create an organizational culture of excellence. Learn more and apply today for the next cohort. kbjanderson.com/Japan trip, and the links are in the show notes. Be sure to connect with Tim Wolput on LinkedIn and check out Tim's videos on YouTube. There are so many great ones that go much deeper into these concepts, including the history of Obeya. And there's a great pre-pandemic adventure that Tim and I had of learning through experience of a Japanese chore stand-up meeting. Many past Chain of Learning episodes go deeper into the concepts that Tim and I discussed in these episodes as well. Go back to the beginning, to episode 4, where I talk about the power of being overdoing, inspired by one of the Japanese companies that is usually included in my Japan leadership experience itinerary. Episode 21 with Toyota leader Isao Yoshino, where we talk about the key attributes of leadership. And episode 36, where I go deeper into the Japanese leadership principle of kokorozashi. I'll put the links to these in the show notes, plus many other episodes where I talk with past participants of my Japan leadership program about the experiences that made the most impact on them, taking their knowledge to deeper wisdom. Be sure to subscribe or follow Chain of Learning on your favorite podcast player or YouTube so you never miss an episode. And share these 2 episodes with your colleagues so we can all strengthen our chain of learning together. Thanks for being a link in my chain of learning today. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.